Hello and welcome to another Growing Tips video from Sustainable Macleod. We've just finished doing quite a heavy prune in our orchard, and what I want to do now is to clean up the equipment that I've used, and that primarily is the secateurs. So what I'll be taking you through is how to clean and maintain your secateurs, and the value of this is that first of all your secateurs work well and will last longer, but also that we're less likely to promote disease in the orchard. In order to maintain the secateurs, all I need is a couple of spanners. I have a couple of sharpening stones and some brushes, a wire brush and a nylon brush, but also just a standard kitchen abrasive pad and a cloth. The blade of the secateurs and the cutting face have a little bit of debris on. Quite often at the end of a season you'll notice that they've got quite dirty. You might even have a little bit of rust accumulated in there, preferably not, but that can happen. So I'm taking off first of all that little ratcheting device and removing the central nut. I'll explain a little bit later why those cogged edges are so significant. At this point I can pull off the flat metal plate and I can take off the spring and pull apart the secateurs. The blade comes off and I'm just about to take off the cutting face. That comes off quite easily as well, so that finally what we end up with is a completely disassembled pair of secateurs. Worth noting that that with secateurs like this, good quality grade professional secateurs, every part is replaceable, which is really significant. It means that we can be a little more sustainable, but we don't have to go out and buy yet another pair of secateurs if one part's broken or is damaged in some way or worn out. In fact, a pair like this ought to last most of us a lifetime if treated properly. I'm just giving a final brush. Now these brushes are just simply from any hardware store. I'm also using some kitchen scourer to give a little extra clean. I'm not expecting the steel to come shiny. What I want to do is clean off the surface material that's accumulated there and any rust, of course. So having done all that, time to put them back together. Notice there are 3 little pins that locate the blade and the cutting face, important to get it the right way around. Just want to pop that back into position and give that bolt a bit of a tighten up. Then I can put the 2 halves together, replace the central bolt. Now that central bolt has, a part of it is squared off, and you need to have the halves of the secateurs in alignment so that they actually sit properly on that bolt. The flat metal plate goes back on, followed by the little screw. I'm going to put that little screw in first of all just to locate that flat metal piece with that little cog. A little bit fiddly, but that'll just hold it in place while I get the larger central bolt, central nut on. Give that a tighten up. Now I'll tighten that again with the shifting spanner, but only enough so that the blade passes tightly across the other face. I don't want it so tight that it binds. Replace that little ratcheting device. That's what locks in the central nut and stops the blades from coming loose. We need to add the spring. And there we have the completed secateurs. Now we've got a couple more jobs to do. The first of these is to sharpen. We could use a sharpening stone, and there are ones bigger than this. That's a small sharpening stone which we can use to sharpen with. My preference is for this Swiss sharpening piece. You'll notice that the sharpening edge is right here, and after hundreds of sharpenings it's still as square as when it started. The way that I prefer to work is to hold the secateurs like this, with the blade pointing towards me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this across, pull the sharpener across at an angle to the blade of around about 30 to 40 degrees. I'm going to do that a few times, and what I'll find is that I have a slight burr along the edge here. If I run my finger away from the sharp edge, across it, I'll feel a slight burr, and at that point what I'm going to do is to just, with a feather touch, just take that across there for a couple of times, and that will now be completely clean and smooth, but also I'll have a sharp blade. One more job to do. Add a couple of drops of oil to make sure that I've got free movement in the secateurs. So, keeping things reasonably clean. What I'm using here is 3-in-1 oil. Sewing machine oil is the same kind of oil. Don't use vegetable oils. They tend to get very messy. So proper 3-in-1 or machine oil is what works best. And there we have a nicely functioning secateurs ready for the next pruning that we're going to be doing.